Shalom. Before I begin this video, first and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Rahawa Kakwadash, and double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone that still to this very day continually rule very well. That's continually feeding the flock through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai. And Shalom to the whole elect that's continually laboring in his work, giving diligence to make your call and election sure in faith, true sincerity, and all charity. Now, the topic of this video is going to be entitled The 10 Lost Tribes. Alright, or however the Spirit allows me to title this video as, concerning what the people deem as the 10 Lost Tribes, in which really the majority of it was consisted of 9 tribes, but the reason why the scriptures deem it, in which this is out of the Bible, by the way, which people, they put off as some kind of fairy tale storybook, in which the Bible, man, it gives you a whole outlook on what's going on, what happened in the past, and what's to come in the future. All right, and if you have understanding, then you'll be able to understand what the scriptures are talking about. Especially concerning this topic right here, concerning the the lost tribes of Israel, in which we here, with us, the men of the Lord, that have been set up by the God of the Bible, which these people inwardly call God, and also his son, which they inwardly call Jesus, in which their true names is Yahweh, which is the name of the Heavenly Father, and the son's name is Yahweh Shai. We are the men that are set up through the spirit of Yahweh, or Yahweh Shai, to bring out the truth, in which a part of that is pinpointing where the lost tribes are, in which they're not lost anymore. All right, now we found the lost tribes of Israel, and we know who they are. Okay, in which the lost tribes, what they could deem the lost tribes, is started from Ephraim all the way down to Issachar, in which those tribes consist of the so-called Native American Indians and the so-called Latinos. All right, those are the lost tribes of Israel. Okay, and how do we know that? Well, it's by prophecy. All right, the scriptures tell you where they went. All right, because people would scratch, they used to scratch their heads like, they couldn't figure out where they went to, and then afterwards the Bible started speaking about the Jews, in which primarily in that time, during the time of our Lord, when Yahweh Shai, when he was in the flesh, the Jews that were there, that were occupying that land, consisted of Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, in which Judah represents the so-called Negroes. All right, Benjamin is the so-called West Indians, and you have the Levites, the tribe of Levi, which consists of the so-called Haitians. Okay, so like I mentioned before, the scriptures tell you where the lost tribes went to. All right, or where the rest of the tribes went to, because if you ask a so-called Jew, a Jewish rat, a Khazar, you ask them, where the rest of the tribes go to, and they're not going to be able to tell you. All right, they're not going to tell you where the rest of the tribes are, because they're not the real Jews. All right, they're imposters. All right, now I'm gonna go ahead and jump into the scriptures, and I'm gonna get straight to the point. I was just hit probably bring out a few scriptures on it. But the first one I want to start off with is 2nd Esdras, the 13th chapter, which really this chapter, starting at the 40th verse, tells you where they went to. All right. Now this is verse 40. That's like you. It says, these are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoner out of their own land in the time of Hosea the king, when Salmanassar, the king of Assyria, led away captive, and he carried them over the waters, and so came they into another land. Now, the thing you want to keep in mind is that phrase, another land, right? Because that other land is going to basically tell you, once again in the Bible, where the other land is. All right? Because the known world back then was known in the eastern part of the world, where modern day Israel is, where modern day Africa is, where parts of Asia Minor. You have what is known today as the land of Russia. That was the known world back then, you know. That's why all the way up until the time of Christopher Columbus, which is his real name is Cristobal Colon. During that time, it was a time of expeditions. All right, and basically scouting out the planet Earth. All right, and that was actually after the that was during the time of the beginning of the Renaissance era. Okay. So once again, going back into this verse, it says these are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoners out of their own land, in which they were, all right, during the Assyrian captivity, in which they were a part of. Now skipping down to verse 41, it says, but they took this counsel among themselves that they would leave the multitude of the heathen and go forth into a farther country where never mankind dwelt. Now, I made mention about that the known world back then was in the eastern part of the world. All right. But they want to go into a further country where never mankind dwelt. Now, back then, you had people that were dwelling in that part of the world. So when the scriptures say where never mankind dwelt, then there has to be another part of the world which never been inhabited. All right. And the only place that you will see on the map of this place other than the eastern part of the world is America. All right. And that is South America and North America. All right. Now, verse 42 says that they might there keep their statutes, which they never kept in their own land. All right. So once again, just before I continue reading, that's why, and it just goes to show you that people just don't read. All right. Because the Bible itself tells you exactly where the tribes went to. All right. Now you can't say anymore that, we don't know who the tribes are. We don't know who the Israelites are anymore. And it's right here written to you in black and white, man. It tells you where they went to. All right. Oh, and another point I want to bring out concerning the book of Esdras, right? In which they like to say that it's non-canonical, basically it doesn't fit into the scriptures. Well, the King James 1611 has the Apocrypha in it. It has the rest of the books that were taken out by these devils, which today is the so-called white man, which is true biblical nationality is Esau, which that's his progenitor. And out of him came the nation of Edom. So you have the Edomite devils taking out the rest of the books of the Bible, the Apocrypha, because the Apocrypha shows you even more facts and truth that has been kept away from the rest of the world. And they still keep up that lie saying that it's not a part of the Bible, but yet here it is. They're still to this very day taking things out of the Bible. That's why you have people today claiming that, oh, well, they got people taking stuff out of the Bible and, this and that. Yeah, man, because these devils are doing that, man. All right. Certain words, certain historical events, things of that nature, man. They're taking stuff like that out of the Bible and rewording everything. So, reading on, it says, verse 43 says, and they enter into Euphrates by the narrow places of the river. For the Most High then showed signs for them and held still the flood till they were passed over. All right. In which that's dealing with the having to basically sail near the equator. All right. It says for the I believe I read it already. Verse 45 says, for through that country there was a great way to go, namely of a year and a half, which that's another key point I want you to bear in mind. For through that country there was a great way to go, namely of a year and a half, and the same region is called Arsareth. All right. Arsareth. Now, verse 46 said, then dwelt they there into the latter time, and now when they shall begin to come. All right. It says, the highest shall stay the springs of the stream again, that they may go through. Therefore sawest thou the multitude with peace. So in the latter time, now we know who they are, because they're still here in this land to this very day. And guess what? The bulk of them is still residing in South America. All right. Now I want you, and I pointed out a key point, right? And where it says another land, which I read a few verses up. Now the word Arsareth, right? If you do a search on Arsareth, let me see if I can get that. It's like you. Trying to spell Arsareth. Google search on Arsareth. You see this? It says Arsareth was definitely not America, but in the African Middle East region. And see, this is one of the lies that Esau pushes out, saying that, Arsareth is not talking about America, it's talking about Africa and this and that. Well, the thing is that I just read earlier, right, where it says where never mankind dwelt. But wait a second, if mankind never dwelt there in the land of Arsareth, right, then why did you say Africa? Why? It makes no sense. It says, but in the African and Middle East region, but you had people that were living there in Africa and in the Middle Eastern region. You had people residing there, man. That was known as the known world. But here it is, you got these devils putting out videos like this, in which the word devil simply means deceiver, by the way. Because you can have somebody that's in our nation, the nation of Israel, they can also be a devil as well, man, because the word literally means a deceiver or slanderer. All right. So I just want to get that word Arsareth, right? In which usually it pulls up in the Edamon online, but from the looks of it, they went in and took it out. So now I got to do a Google search on it. So this is out of the Bible study tools, right? It says Arsareth, right? It said this is the land to which the 10 tribes were deported, in which we just read earlier that they took the counsel among themselves to lead the heathen and to go into another land, in which they did that on their own will. They weren't deported by, any other nation or anything like that. So that's off. It says it's described as another land, laying a year and a half's journey beyond the river, i.e. the Euphrates. It probably answers to the Hebrew Eretz Akareth, which is in Deuteronomy, the 29th chapter, and the 28th verse. Let's see if I can get that. It's like it. Gotta go back in. Because of Deuteronomy 29 and 28, it says, and the Lord Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahshua rooted them out of their land in anger, and in wrath, and in great indignation, and cast them into another land, as it is this day. Now, look at that word, another land. Look at the Hebrew word for it. So, the word another, right, as you see here, the word another is achar, all right, achar. And the word land means aratazah, all right. So aratazah means land, achar means another, all right. So it's achar aratazah, all right, which means another land. So the word Arsareth means another land, which we just read. Right, let me go back up. Verse 40, it said, these are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoners out of their own land in the time of Hosea, the king, whom Salmanassar, the king of Assyria, led away captive, and he carried them over the waters, and so came they into another land. All right. So during that time, when Salmanassar, the king of Assyria, when he led away the 10 tribes away, right? He led them to another land, right? And then afterwards, they took counsel among themselves. Let me go down. Verse 41 says, but they took this counsel among themselves that they would lead the multitude of the heathen and go forth into a farther country where never mankind dwelt. Now, once again, going back to what I was saying earlier, that you had people that were residing in that known world, in the eastern part of the world. They already knew the scope of that part of the world. All right. But on the other side of the world, mankind never dwelt there. All right. Now skip down to verse 45. It says, for through that country there was a great way to go, namely of a year and a half in the same region is called Arsareth. All right. Now, where it says a year and a half, right? So it takes a year and a half journey to make it to the other side of the world, which again goes back to the word Arsareth, which means another land. All right. Now, I want to grab a quick point, right? It should be 2 Chronicles. All right, this is 2 Chronicles, the 9th chapter and the 20th verse. It says, and all the drinking vessels of King Solomon were of gold, and all the vessels of the house of the forest of Lebanon were of pure gold, and none were of silver. It was not anything accounted of in the days of Solomon. Verse 21 is the point. It says, for the king's ships went to Tarshish with the servants of Hiram. Every 3 years once came the ships of Tarshish bringing gold and silver, ivory, and apes and peacocks. All right. So every 3 years came the ships of Tarshish bringing gold, silver, ivory, apes, and peacocks. All right, and these are the ships of Tarshish. All right, let's see if I can get another one. I believe it's another one that's laid out. It speaks about the ships. Okay, so that's the only one. So I'm going to read again. It says, for the king's ships went to Tarshish with the service of Aram. And every 3 years, once came the ships of Tarshish bringing gold and silver, ivory, and apes and peacocks. So every 3 years, in which it takes a year and a half, right, to get to that region of the earth where never mankind dwelt. And it takes a year and a half to get back. All right, go back to it again. I don't know why my app always does that. So every 3 years, all those resources come back to Solomon. So the trip to America and back takes roughly 3 years. Okay. That's why you had, let me see if I can get another fact real quick. It's like it. So this is why you have images like this. Okay. These are the what they call the Olmecs, in which they found heads, statue heads that look like this, in which these heads, if you look at them, you see the broad nose and lips. And the ones that made ships of Tarshish, they were Hamites. All right. So King Solomon had servants from Ham, which were Hamites. They were, which made the ships. And then they came over to the Americas to bring in resources from this part of the world, from the part of the world where, or should I say, the western part of the world. All right, this is why you have the Olmec heads that are there here today. That's why they were here when, around the time when this part of America, the northern part of America, was so-called discovered. All right, in which they say it was discovered by Cristobal Colon, which he didn't discover America because you had people that were already here. And those were the so-called Latino tribes, and they were the so-called Native American tribes. You had Gad and Reuben that were dwelling in parts like here in Alabama. You had the Seminole, so-called Seminole Indians that were in Florida. And then you had the so-called Latino tribes that took up the majority of the southern part of America, or should I say South America. All right. So I'm going to read verse 46 again in 2nd Esdras, the 13th chapter. It says, then dwelt they there until the latter time, and now when they shall begin to come. And that's exactly what you're seeing. Now you're starting to see the northern tribes come together. Now you're starting to see them come back into their nationality. All right. Now I want to grab one last scripture. I'm going to close it on out. It's Hosea, the 1st chapter and the 10th verse says, yet the number of the children of Israel shall be as the sand of the sea, which cannot be measured nor numbered. And it shall come to pass that in the place where it was said unto them, ye are not my people, right? And this is the part of the world which we've been told we're not the people of the Lord. We're not the sons of the Most High. All right. They tell us that, oh, well, you're not Israelites. You're not Hebrew Israelites. You're just, you're Hamites. You're this nation. You're that nation. But no, it says in the place where it said unto them, ye are not my people, which is here in America. It says, there it shall be said unto them, ye are the sons of the living power. And that's exactly what you're seeing right now. Now our nationality is being declared here on the soils of America, which is Babylon the Great in the Bible. All right. But that's pretty much it on this lesson, just to bring out this information, seeing that it's indigenous, I won't say indigenous people, but Cologne Day. Columbus Day, that's what the people call it. But they basically celebrate the death and destruction and chaos that Christopher Columbus committed here on the soils of America. And really, they're waking up to it. That's why they're trying to change the holiday now, trying to change it to a different name, like Jefferson's Day and this and that, which it makes no difference, man. All right, that atrocity that happened during the time of Christopher Columbus will never be forgotten, and that shows you the level of hatred and the nature of the so-called white man. And that's one example out of many examples. Okay, so that pretty much wraps up this video and this lesson. In Lord's will, you members of the Hopeful Elect were edified by this video. And until next time, once again, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Merhaba Kakwadash, and double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone that continually rule very well. Shalom to the Hopeful Elect, peace and safety, salutations to the Hopeful Elect that is continually laboring his work, that's giving diligence to make their calling and election sure in faith, true, and sincerity, all charity. And with that, I'm going to say shalom.